Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into it because today we are looking at this wild intersection of design, history, and modern politics surrounding the newly announced 2026 U.S. commemorative passport.
So I want you to consider an interesting question. What does your passport actually say about your country? You see, while passports are, fundamentally just travel permits, they also act as a mirror, reflecting a nation's identity out to the entire world. Think about it. When you hand that little booklet over to a border agent thousands of miles from home, the aesthetics, the symbols, and the history printed on those pages are basically speaking on behalf of your country before you even say a single word. And pretty soon, that reflection, it's getting a major update.
To grasp the full picture of this April 2026 announcement, we're going to unpack the physical design, trace the historical context, look at the broader America 250 branding, map the political reactions, and finally explore the global impact.
Let's move into Section 1, the 2026 Commemorative Passport. We'll start intimately by looking at the object itself and seeing what exactly is changing right there in your hands. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The 2021 Next Generation Passport, the one you probably have in a drawer right now, relies heavily on enduring monuments. We're talking the Liberty Bell, sweeping landscapes, the Apollo 11 moon landing. But the 2026 Commemorative Edition makes a really profound pivot. Right there on the inside front cover, it features President Trump's second inaugural portrait superimposed directly over the text of the Declaration of Independence. And just below that portrait is the president's signature, rendered in gold ink, juxtaposed on the opposite page with a depiction of the Founding Fathers signing that famous 1776 document. So we're shifting from the 2021 model's nonpartisan historical symbols to a direct integration of a sitting executive's likeness into an active, everyday travel document. It's a massive change.
And it's not just the inside. Beyond the interior, the exterior of the booklet is completely inverted to emphasize national identity over utility. The State Department is basically turning this document into a mobile monument to American sovereignty. Notice how the text United States of America has been moved to the very top in bold gold lettering, pushing the word passport all the way to the bottom. The center now commands your attention with this striking gold rendering of the bald eagle from the Great Seal. And flip it over, on the back cover we have a gold laminated American flag with 13 stars representing the original colonies, all arranged in a circle around the number 250. It is a top-to-bottom visual overhaul explicitly designed to emphasize the specific historical moment.
Which brings us to Section 2, History of U.S. Passports. Let's see how this builds on, or totally breaks from, 2.5 centuries of American history.
Tracing the history, you realize the passport has evolved radically from the days when Benjamin Franklin was literally printing his own letters in France to the highly secure biometric booklets we use today. Seriously, early in our republic, passports weren't even standardized. Mayors, governors, even notaries could just issue them. It wasn't until 1856 that Congress finally stepped in to give the State Department sole authority. And here's a wild fact. We didn't even require photographs until 1914, spurred by the security anxieties of World War I. The document continuously modernized through the 20th century, leading to this highly secure 2021 Next Generation Passport, which features that stiff polycarbonate bio page to prevent identity fraud. And all of that brings us to the July 2026 introduction of this commemorative edition.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is that until today, presidential imagery was strictly reserved for historical giants and always viewed through a nonpartisan retrospective lens. Integrating a living, sitting president into the internal architecture of an active passport? That is entirely unprecedented. Prior to this, the only presidents you'd ever find in your passport artwork were literally the ones carved into Mount Rushmore: Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt. And they were utilized as symbols of the expansion and preservation of the Union, not as contemporary political leadership.
Now, this passport redesign doesn't exist in a vacuum. That brings us to Section 3, the America 2050 branding strategy.
The administration is actively merging popular culture with federal infrastructure. They're utilizing everything from sporting events to the renaming of institutions to cement the executive identity onto the nation's landmarks, and even our currency. The America 250 strategy goes way, way beyond traditional fireworks. For instance, we're looking at a proposed Grand Prix race on the National Mall and a UFC fight right there on the South Lawn. Physically, large banners of the president's face are currently being displayed on the headquarters of the DOJ, Labor, and Agriculture departments. And in a push for a permanent linguistic legacy, congressionally mandated institutions like the Kennedy Center and the U.S. Institute of Peace have been modified to include the Trump brand. Oh, And in your wallet, you'll soon see the sitting president's signature on all new paper currency, right alongside his likeness on a brand new $1 coin.
The administration views this pervasive personalization of the state as a necessary and successful strategy to reinvigorate patriotism during the semi-quincentennial, that's a mouthful, but it just means our 250th anniversary. They argue that as the nation reflects on this milestone, aligning the federal government with a specific executive identity is a powerful way to, quote, lead a renewal of national pride. The passport then acts as the absolute most mobile example of this overarching federal branding strategy.
Let's zoom out a bit for Section 4, Logistics and Partisan Reactions. How is this highly visible policy change actually being rolled out, and what's the national response?
So, despite the customized artwork, these will function as highly secure 10-year legal documents. But they're going to be distributed exclusively in Washington, D.C. as the default document for in-person applicants. The State Department is doing a limited run of about 25,000 to 30,000 copies. You can't just request this at your local post office. It is geographically restricted to the Washington Passport Agency. If you go there in person, this is the default document you'll get. Importantly, it doesn't cost extra, and it retains all those crucial next-generation security features we talked about. And because adult passports are valid for a decade, these commemorative booklets will remain in global circulation all the way until 2036.
Naturally, this visual shift has sparked fierce opposition from Democratic lawmakers. They argue that featuring a living leader on a passport mimics autocratic nations and frankly wastes taxpayer dollars. Representative Raja Krishnamurthy has been incredibly vocal, characterizing the move as an inappropriate use of the federal bureaucracy for personal branding. Democratic members of the House Foreign Affairs Committee have really echoed this sentiment, suggesting the State Department should focus its energy on international diplomacy rather than domestic political imagery.
But immediately contrasting that critique, the State Department and its supporters maintain that featuring the sitting president alongside the founders is a perfectly appropriate celebration of the country's current direction. Spokesperson Tommy Pigott has strongly defended the design, noting that enhanced imagery is a fitting way to mark such a massive milestone. The White House alignment essentially argues that since this administration is steering the country during the 25th anniversary, linking the modern executive to the 1776 Continental Congress is just a natural, prideful celebration.
This intense polarization has even bled into public actions, with authorities sending out strict warnings that attempting to cover the president's face on the document will instantly void it for international travel. We've actually seen this happen already with the 2026 National Park Passes, which also feature the president's likeness. Citizens have literally been placing stickers over the image in protest, forcing the National Park Service to update its policy. But applying the same sticker protest to a passport, that carries severe consequences. Altering a legal travel document is a federal offense, and doing so could literally strand you abroad or prevent you from boarding your flight, which is, for sure, definitely not how you want to start your vacation.
Finally, let's turn to Section 5, Legal and Global Implications, to explore the repercussions at borders and in courtrooms.
Right now, the passport is actually at the center of some really intense domestic legal battles, specifically regarding attempts to merge State Department data with voter registration requirements. For instance, an executive order attempting to mandate passport proof for voter registration has been repeatedly blocked by federal courts as unconstitutional. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security is facing lawsuits over its SAVE database system. Critics argue the system is improperly pooling State Department passport data to create this massive citizenship lookup tool. This is raising massive concerns about Privacy Act violations and the disproportionate disenfranchisement risks for naturalized citizens. So it's a very tangled legal web right now.
When we zoom out and compare this globally, the U.S. is adopting a uniquely presidentialist aesthetic, completely breaking from global democratic norms, which heavily favor enduring nature, or, in the UK's case, a strictly non-political monarch. The UK features King Charles III, sure, but his presence symbolizes constitutional stability, not partisan victory. Most democracies, like Japan and Scandinavian nations, use their passports as a canvas for natural landscapes or classic art, like Hokusai's Great Wave. Strikingly, even in highly centralized autocracies like North Korea, their passports depict sacred natural sites rather than their current leaders. This really makes the 2026 U.S. design uniquely localized to the current executive.
So, we're going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. As the 2026 commemorative passport travels the globe, does this document mark a permanent shift toward volatile, personalized state branding? Or is it merely a unique snapshot of America at 250? If future administrations follow suit, we can see successive leaders spending huge resources to erase and replace the branding of their predecessors, effectively turning our foundational travel document into a rotating billboard of political victory.
Whatever happens, the choices we make today about our national symbols will absolutely echo for decades to come. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and keep looking closely at the details of the world around you.